Let's come back to Nairobi. Floods are happening. People are actually blaming Sakaja for the floods that are currently happening in Nairobi. But we've seen even Brazil, there's very serious floods.
No, I don't think that is the issue. I don't think the issue, it's almost like saying we have unemployment, we have poverty, but there are poverty even in the United States. No, that's not how you deal with issues.
Okay.
We are Kenyans, we live in Kenya, we live in Nairobi. We are having issues in Nairobi. What is it that a governor ought to have done that would have mitigated the problems? You understand?
Okay.
So, for example, 1 year is a long time. You can build storm sewer systems. You can build drainage systems. You can clean the city in 1 year. You can put in place infrastructural plans to deal with problems we've always had for the last 60 years. Has he done any of that? No. The money that he's been collecting, the money that the national government has given as required under the Constitution to Nairobi, where has it gone? Not 1 shilling for development, not 1 shilling for employment, not 1 shilling for industrialization, not 1 shilling for infrastructure development, not 1 shilling for healthcare, not 1 shilling for education. So what is it that is done with the money? These are questions. So you can't just say, Brazil, there is flooding. No. We want to know what you've done in Nairobi. The riparian lands, wetlands, that are occupied, that were grabbed before, has he tried to repossess even at 0.0001%? No. Instead, he's grabbing. So no, Sakaja is a criminal, a bad one. And what is he doing about these constructions that are being done all over by Chinese, unplanned, disorganized, unnecessary, tall buildings that are being constructed, clearly in violation of planning bylaws. Why? Because he's getting kickbacks. Every city in the world must have a planning protocol for the development of the cities, all the cities. It cannot be that you are saying all we need to do is go up. There has to be a limit of up. And once that limit is there, it has to be enforced across the board. All these residential areas where it's just building concrete without recreational spaces. I mean, it's completely unhealthy and it's insane. Because in all cities of the world, the law is that whoever constructs concrete to a certain height, and that height is clearly imposed by law or bylaw, must have green space, must have recreational facilities, must have cycling lanes, must have things that make a community or a neighborhood livable. So people can breathe fresh air, children can play, people can walk, people can exercise. That's not happening in the city. And look what he was saying he was going to do at Uhuru Park. He wants to build a pub, isn't it? A club. Because he drinks.
Inside the Uhuru Park.
Yeah. Uhuru Park was supposed to be a green space, a recreational park.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a concrete jungle.
But he's removing the clubs from the estates. That's what he said. So he's bringing them in a central place.
Who told him?
So what wakuja wapige kelele huko?
My friend, first of all, a governor cannot dictate to people what to do about their city. Right? In accountable governance, the people make that decision for themselves. through their elected leaders. If you want this thing to go through, if you are insisting that these things are good for the city, have town hall meetings, gauge the opinion of the citizenry. Have these opinions go before the council through their MCAs. Debate it in the assembly. Have it passed. Then you can say, I'm going to source for funds to do this. But Sakaja, as incompetent as he is, he thinks he's a genius, he's Einstein. He can stand somewhere and say, this is what is good for you. Who gave him that authority? He does not have authority to tell me what we should be doing with Uhuru Park. I know, as a man who has traveled, as a man who has lived abroad, that we don't even have parks. This Uhuru Park is not even a park anymore. It's a concrete jungle. We need to make it a park. You see that lake, that artificial lake they have?
Yeah.
It should be a nice place where over the weekend you can take your children and enjoy this space. We should have birds and animals and green spaces and remove all the concrete. Then it is a park. Then we should be able to restore all the parks that have been grabbed. That's what I would do if I was governor. Let all the neighborhoods have parks and recreational centers. The rule across the world for most of the places that are developed, you cut down one tree, you plant 15. Yeah.
Haikwangi tu.
15. And in developed countries, if you are a developer, you must plant trees, you must have recreational centers, you must have all these facilities for the residents where you are constructing. The Chinese here are constructing without regard to anything. Because for them, it's extraction. My friend, you can only extract so much. After some point, it becomes madness. And what I see in this city is insanity. It's not order. It's not development.
The solution for, we also in Nairobi, we have a main problem for traffic. There's a solution that came, they put a couple of drums. You remember the time they were doing away with the roundabouts and everything? And in your manifesto, you have spoken about the train.
The transit system.
Yes.
A modern transit system where you have a subway system, you have a rapid transit system, you have real transportation arteries. Then you also have to have, as I said, a system of managing the environment, right? Having garbage collected, recycled, and just having cleanliness in the city. Having a sewer system that actually works. We don't have a sewer system. We don't have a garbage management system. There is none. They take garbage and they dump it in dump sites, right?
Yeah.
Where people live. In fact, there is nothing public that manages the environment in Nairobi County, that manages sanitation and cleanliness in Nairobi County. There is no transportation system in Nairobi County. In Toronto, for example, I can give you, there is something called Toronto Transit System, TTC. It runs trains, it runs buses, it runs trams, and it runs a system for even transporting people who have disability. People with disability or senior citizens just have to call, and a vehicle comes where you live and takes you to hospital. You don't have to go to the road. It comes where you live. Public funds from the taxes, they don't pay anything. Now look at this. You know? And here, we tax more than they tax in Canada. Healthcare system, for example, in Canada is completely free in terms of people pay taxes, but after that, you can see any doctor you want and you don't pay anything. The only thing you pay is prescription drugs if you have to go to the pharmacy to buy drugs, which for disabled and people who are senior is also discounted through the government, through the taxes. So tax works. But here, where do our taxes go? Atwoli is flying 3 planes with them. Right? The pension system, where does it go? People tell you go take NHIF card. But when your wife is delivering a child, they can't even be admitted at Kenyatta. And if they're admitted at a private clinic, I was told just yesterday by one of my relatives, he had to pay for that too. And yet he has a card for which he has already paid. So what kind of system is this? So we have a messed up system. It's really barbaric, both at the national and the county level. The most unfortunate part of it, nobody's talking about it. And these people, who are, some of them are in positions of power, are people who studied abroad, who have lived abroad, who have worked abroad, whose children are staying, working, and studying abroad. So they are not completely ignorant. The only thing that they are doing is that because their children are not going to these things, through these problems, they don't care. When their wives want to deliver, they take them to London. When they are sick, they go to India. Right? And when their children are going to university, they take them to foreign universities.